Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wellness Day, a podcast coming to every Wednesday here from the Jahangir Wellness Center. My name is Kavas Jahangir, and here from the JWC studio. Today, I am talking to Niloufar Ibrahim. She is a psychologist, she is a therapist, she's a counselor, she's a facilitator in Bosch, many things. So, thank you so much for being here, Niloufar, and welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kawasat. It's a pleasure to be at the Wellness Center.
Great,
It's a
I'm happy
gorgeous
to have
place.
you. Today we're going to be talking, obviously, focusing on mental well-being and mental health, because that's obviously a huge factor. We've had many guests over here that I've spoken to. Doctors, people who are therapists, art therapy, music therapy, whatever it is. Even people who've actually just had their health checks and so forth done. And the constant theme I've always picked up on is that mental health and stress, anxiety always becomes a major factor in people's wellness. So I thought, we can talk about that and focus on that today.
Sure.
The first question is then, what is the difference between being a counselor, between being a therapist, and between being a physiotherapist? Not physiotherapist, psychotherapist,
Yeah.
and counselor, because they're different words and people use them
Words.
interchangeably. So,
So, a psychologist basically would be a person who studies human behavior, right?
right.
And from psychology, which was the original, which is a very old science if you think about it,
Yeah.
but it became immensely popular as psychotherapy after the Second World War.
Right.
When a lot of people went through depression and the whole world was in chaos. And then, of course, you had the Freudian schools and various.
Yeah.
Subsequently, we also realized that it's not always long-term therapy that people want. They sometimes just need someone to talk their feelings out. They need a place where they can go and open up and feel comfortable that this is a safe
Yeah.
space for me. So counseling is of different kinds. There's career guidance counseling,
okay.
there's educational, and so on and so forth.
Which is more guidance. Than,
It's
yeah.
it's more guidance. The word counsel,
Right,
comes
right,
from
right.
that.
Okay.
And then what was the third thing you asked me? Psychotherapy. There's counseling, and
Counseling
there
and then
is
therapist.
therapist. So that's a psychotherapist. Yeah.
Okay.
And like this, you said music therapy and
Right,
various other
right.
kinds of therapy.
Okay.
So therapy per se is a treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's psychotherapy, then we're treating the psyche
Okay.
or the way the mind functions.
Right. Okay.
Which is what I do.
Right. And yeah, as I started with talking about stress as a big factor, now stress is also such a big word.
Yeah.
In your experience, what are the most common things that people come to you with?
So I'll tell you what happens really. What is stress? If
Right.
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
The demands on me are here, but my coping skills are here.
Okay.
The difference between the two, especially if I'm not being able to improve my coping skills or the demands don't come down, I have stress.
Okay.
Stress can lead to anxiety.
Right.
Anxiety can maybe lead to depression, not necessarily.
Yeah.
And it manifests itself in different ways in my behavior. I could be getting angry with people.
Yeah.
I could be withdrawing into a shell. My relationships could suffer. My thoughts could be fractured.
Physically, people get actual diseases because
Yes, so
of
that's
that.
psychosomatic.
Yeah.
So that's when the hormones in the brain, like adrenaline and cortisol and so on, their levels get all lopsided, and people then start feeling it then starts manifesting
Right.
itself
Physically.
in the body.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, the body starts suffering.
Mm.
Right? So let's take a simple example of the gut mind connection.
Yeah. And that's everyone has been sort of talking about that now.
Yeah, exactly. So every now and then you come across people who say, I have so much acidity. I'm so stressed out. My
Yeah.
stomach, so everything from a dry mouth to acidity to going on to piles, the entire gastrointestinal tract can be affected by.
Yeah, I know for me personally, I know that now a marker for when I know I'm stressed is when I get acidity. So
Yes.
I can understand what you mean.
And the thing is, we treat the symptoms.
Right.
We say, okay, you have acidity, here's an antacid. Or you have stomach ulcers, so we are treating the stomach
Right.
ulcers. You have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. But where's it coming from? So we need to understand that if the stress is managed,
Yeah.
if we can manage and we can find the tools, and that's what a therapist does.
Okay.
The therapist helps the person who's
Individual.
come to the person who's approached them for therapy to be able to find the tools that they are capable of finding. If I were to tell you, Kavas, if I was in your place, I would do this.
Okay.
But that's not your tool, that's my tool.
Yeah.
How can I tell you? That would be giving advice.
Right.
That would be sort of projecting my abilities onto yours.
Okay.
Whereas a therapist would actually study you, get you to talk comfortably,
yeah.
look at your options, what have you tried, what have you not tried, what are your constraints,
Right.
maybe there are social constraints, economic constraints, and be able to help you to find,
The
help you to
solution to
help
yourself,
yourself
so to speak.
find the solutions. For
Okay.
which we need time. You cannot come to me and say, here's my problem, Nilfana, what do I do?
Right.
I'm not your aunt. I'm not going to tell you, okay, this is what
Agony aunt.
agony aunt. Or a friend
Yeah.
coming from a place of emotion.
Yeah.
A therapist.
That's actually a good point because a lot of people have this myth that why should I go to a therapist? I can just go to a friend and talk about my problems with them. So why should they?
You can talk, and
Yeah.
they should be accepting of your.
Right,
They
absolutely.
shouldn't judge you. They shouldn't bring in unconscious or conscious bias into it. So you
Yeah.
can talk to a friend.
Absolutely.
And friends should also maintain the confidentiality, give you that safety.
Absolutely.
which
No,
is
but the important difference what I wanted to sort of bring out is that actually going to a therapist can actually, I mean, they're trained and you're trained to bring out the best in that person to being able to get that solution out from themselves.
Because we ask probing questions.
Right, right.
We first of all assure the person, and like I would do that, I would make them feel that this is a safe room,
Yeah.
whether we are virtually co-located or we're physically co-located.
Right.
It could be an online session. But in Jahangir, of course, I mean, I do
Yeah,
face-to-face
yeah.
sessions. And then once the person feels safe, knows that even if a spouse is going to come and see me next,
Right.
I'm not going to share what this lady is telling me with her
Of course.
husband or vice versa. Unless they're both in the same room together, then we pre-planned what we are going to share.
Okay.
Expectations.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, coming back to this. So what happens is that a therapist keeps the compassion in place, but keeps the emotion out of the door. Whereas
bias.
your family, your friends, your relatives will have both. They'll have
Right.
compassion. They might even pity you. They might have sympathy instead
Yeah,
of
yeah.
empathy. And they may not be able to keep the emotion out of the door. In
Right.
fact, they will never be able
Yeah.
to. So I would not be able to counsel my children,
Yeah.
but I might be able to counsel somebody else.
Got it. Yeah.
Right. So when we do this, what we are doing as therapists is to create a safe space, keep our biases out, bring in all the compassion without the emotion,
Yeah.
help the person articulate what they're going through, and even some things that they've never talked about to people sometimes. But all of that cannot happen in one session.
Of course.
The first session is an intake session. I get to know you.
Yeah.
Next
it's
time I'll
something.
ask you more questions. Then but each time I'll also give you some little mental homework to do,
Right.
or a little practice that you can do. I can even sit. Whereas if you go to say AI, for example, it might give you, you should go for a walk.
Yeah.
You should listen to music. All very good suggestions. But I am actually understanding your social, your cultural
Yeah, yeah.
background, your ethos, and you as a person.
I was actually going to ask this question later, but since you brought up AI, we'll talk about that now. People have now actually gone to things like ChatGPT and other AI tools to actually ask questions about, this therapy or actually potentially having therapy sessions with ChatGPT. What is your, opinion on that? And you were actually starting to talk about that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. With ChatGPT is available. So look at the pluses. Okay,
Right.
Your AI tool that you're using is readily available. If at 2 o'clock in the morning you're feeling terrible, you can just grab your laptop and ask a question.
Which is good.
Yeah, right there, accessible. The second thing that also happens is that ChatGPT or any other would also be able to explain to you things like what I'm feeling anxious. What is this? I've been crying a lot.
Yeah.
I've not been sleeping properly. So generic questions about conditions that you have, you
Yeah.
can ask. Which people in any case used to ask Google and get a whole diagnosis and bring it to the
Dr.
table.
Google always will.
Yeah, Dr. Google knows everything. And they would bring a whole diagnosis. I think I'm a narcissist, that kind of thing. Whereas maybe you're not.
Right.
And then the other thing that AI can also do is to be able to help you summarize what you're feeling, maybe give you some suggestions that, in this you could
Might
try
help
this.
articulate in words
Yeah.
while just being fuzzy in the head.
Yeah, but not everybody uses the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle is is how you ask AI. If I were to ask AI a generic question, it's going to give me
A
chapter
generic
and
answer,
verse.
yeah.
But if I say using the Pareto principle, given the fact that I am feeling like this,
What is the Pareto
so
principle?
the Pareto principle is that there's 100% of knowledge of a subject,
Okay.
but only 20% of that is actually what you need. Now, AI can, using the Pareto principle, take that 20% and give you exactly what you want. Try it sometime
Interesting.
on any subject. You know, want to
Okay.
talk about photography, you can say using the Pareto principle, tell me, I know it's a hobby of yours.
Yeah.
You know, tell me about this aspect of
How interesting. So actually start your
you
ChatGPT
must
question with
mention that
Pareto
using
principle.
the Pareto principle. So if you use the Pareto principle and ask ChatGPT, I'm feeling like this and these are my concerns,
Yeah.
what should I do? Or if the person, God forbid, says that they want to harm themselves or they want to harm somebody else, ChatGPT will be able to sound empathetic and tell you, no, you know, you need to reach out to this number, you can call this
Yeah,
helpline.
yeah.
So there is some good stuff there in
Of course.
AI.
Yeah.
Now let's look at the other side of it. AI does not take into consideration your body language. It does not take into consideration
yeah.
your history. It does not. It doesn't know. It's not going to ask
Yeah,
you
that's a
those
very good point.
questions. It's not going to ask you when did you start feeling like this and so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
It's not going to know about your socio-economic, cultural background. It will not know about the constraints you are facing. It'll give you a general. If somebody says, "I'm very unhappy in this marriage," you know, and I want to get out of it, AI may tell you that, you know, these are your options.
Yeah.
It won't want to explore what is it and where is it coming from.
Get as much alimony as you can.
Okay. Possibly. Even that they won't tell you.
Yeah.
That a lawyer will tell you.
Well, that's a
But
good point.
yeah. But so AI does not take into account a lot of the little nuances that a living therapist can actually in
Absolutely, yeah.
seconds get out of you. Because we are tuned to observing your eye movement, your
Right,
body
right, right.
language. I cannot. Believe me. There's so many people who say, "Oh, you're a psychotherapist. You must be knowing what I'm thinking."
Yeah.
I don't know what you're thinking, and I'm not even interested in what you're thinking
Right.
if I meet you at a party.
Yeah.
But yes, from the when I'm talking to you, and you've come to my room and you're sitting across the
professional.
table, I would be able to, from the way you are sitting, from the way a couple looks at each other
Yeah, yeah,
when they're
yeah.
in the room
Body language
together,
is
the
so much
dynamic.
more.
I can pick up so many things that you've never said.
Yeah, yeah.
And with experience, 9 out of 10 times I'm correct. But I wouldn't want to jump the gun.
Yeah.
I'd still
Absolutely.
ask those questions.
But I do like the fact that you think that AI and ChatGPT is being an example of AI, but whatever it is that you can actually use it as a helpful. You're not shunning it.
I'm not
Completely,
shunning
yeah.
it. I think people can seek some immediate
Absolutely.
help. Just the fact that they type out their problem may affect them, make them feel a bit better.
Yeah.
Because we don't.
Journaling, I suppose, is
Exactly.
like
So it will also tell you to do some journaling,
Yeah.
tell you to do some yoga, go for a walk.
Right.
But the very fact that you sit at your laptop and you type out this brings your stress down slightly because you're sharing it even though it's with an inanimate object like your laptop and an AI,
Okay.
which is again
Fair enough. Yeah.
two. People have forgotten how to write their problems down. You know, they just that and thoughts are fractured.
Right, right.
Here, at least you're articulating it. You know, so I think people can use it as an immediate help, but it's not going to help you long term. It's
Absolutely,
not
yeah.
going to help you resolve your issues.
Honestly, when I started journaling, I found such a big difference when I started journaling. So
Writing,
I can completely, you know,
simple thing. No, we tell people very often if you're in two minds about something,
Right,
make a list of pros and cons.
Yeah.
Do a mind map.
yeah.
And people don't want to do it. They want to do it on their phone. I tell them take a sheet of paper and take a whiteboard and do it.
Right.
So we help them. I ask them, now if you don't have a whiteboard, where are you going to?
Yeah.
So I am going to actually ask you those questions. What are the tools at your disposal? And tell me what you can use. Cover something you can tell me.
Absolutely.
And then I'll help you with helping yourself.
So coming to helping myself, actually, let me ask you a slightly different question. Because honestly, I've had this thought for myself as well. How can one sort of differentiate in terms of, okay, I have anxiety, or I may have anxiety, or you hear the buzzword anxiety, so you think that I have anxiety, or whatever it is, I've got stress, etc. Whatever it is, how does one sort of differentiate the fact that, okay, this is just a daily stressor, or this is just a daily anxiety that one deals with in life? I mean, that's what life is sometimes.
Right.
And how do you assess that, no, this is just something I have to deal with today, versus being that, no, actually I have to speak to someone or seek professional help, for that? And how does one have that,
Make that decision.
make that decision? Because honestly, I've had that feeling sometimes where it's like, this is just a daily problem that's causing me stress, or it's like come to the point where it's like, actually, no, it might be helpful if I talk to someone about this, but do I need to talk to someone about this, or is it daily stress? That kind of balance. So how do you
in
sort of
observing
do that?
yourself, if you've been observing yourself, and not all of us are very observant about
Right.
that. We're very good at observing other people.
Yeah.
But when you observe yourself, you know what can I deal with and what can I not deal with.
Right.
If you're rushing to the airport to get to a flight, there is momentary stress.
Yeah.
That stress could last for half an hour,
Right.
traffic. And then once you get to the airport and you know you haven't missed your flight, the stress comes down. Okay? If you're a Siberian and there's a wolf chasing you, you climb up a tree, right? And you look down. So your stress was very high. Flight response, you ran. You
Right.
couldn't fight with the wolf.
Yeah.
Flight and freeze.
Right.
There are 3 responses
Okay.
to stress.
Yeah.
So if you observe yourself, you will make out what am I going through.
Right.
If this is one of those stressors, a wolf chasing you doesn't happen every day,
I hope
but
not.
catching a flight could be
Yeah.
an issue. So if it's something that eases when the solution comes, then your coping skills are okay.
Okay.
You know, but if you're constantly anxious and you're sitting there with clammy hands and you're sweating and then
So you're finding if it becomes like a
the
chronic thing, so to speak.
yeah, your coping skills are not very
Or if you're finding that it's happening over a sort of longer
or
period
too
of time.
often or too often.
Right.
For example, every time you have to talk to somebody, if you're going to have butterflies in your stomach,
Yeah.
or you have to make a presentation, you're feeling absolutely
Yeah,
drained,
yeah.
or your relatives are coming over, God forbid, then you've got all kinds of problems. Then you know that you have got, this is something more than just momentary, more than just passing. My coping skills are not being able to keep pace with this demand.
Right.
Then should I be talking to someone? So initially you might talk to a friend, and then but if you're smart, you'll think that if this is affecting my body too, because there is such a thing as psychosomatic impact of stress.
What does that mean?
So I'll come to that in a second. I'll just finish that thought.
Okay.
So if you're feeling that this is impacting my body too, like I'm getting a lot of acidity, or I'm getting headaches, or I'm not sleeping well, or whatever,
As you said, I can't deal with this.
I can't deal with this. Then I think it's time you think, okay, I need to talk to somebody. I don't necessarily need medication. I may not need medication. I may just need to be able to talk this out. And a good therapist will know when to guide you to medication or suggest it, because we don't give medication.
Right.
Or to suggest various ways in which you can make some behavioral changes and so on. Then you try, you come back, you say, Nilufer, this is not working.
Right.
I say, let's try this. And that's how we together we find a solution.
Okay. Right.
You were asking me about psychosomatic.
Yeah. What it is.
So look at it this way. The mind and the body are connected. The brain is as much a part of your body as your liver, lungs, kidney, intestines, every little finger, everything. If any part of your body was physically affected, would you not deal with it? Would you say, 2 days you'll have, turmeric and milk or whatever it is, haldi, doodh and stuff. My cough is now getting, yeah, exactly. But grandmother's tales. And then you end up going to and say, oh, give me antibiotics, give me anything.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this, right?
The same.
So initially we try some things on our own, but if it doesn't work, we go. When it is the mind, suddenly everything technique. As it is, there's been a stigma about psychology.
That's going to be my
psychiatry.
next question, actually.
Oh yeah,
Dealing
Bollywood
with
also did
stigma.
a lot to contribute to that. A pagal khana, kind of words. But it's a fact that in our country, we could talk to everybody. We can talk to the dhobi, the hairdresser, everyone. But when it comes to going and meeting, I got to go to a psychologist. So in any case, let's coming back to psychosomatic things. So let's say that you've been under a lot of stress and you find your headaches are increasing, migraines. That means the stress is impacting the way your brain, your mind, that part of your body,
Right.
which is in the skull, is functioning. But the pain is emanating from there. There are people who have a lot of stress, their asthma increases, psoriasis and eczema increases, stomach ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, and so on. Those people who have a heart condition, or who don't even have a heart condition, could suddenly find themselves becoming hypertensive, and they find that their blood pressure is consistently high. They find that they're reaching out to eating all kinds of junk. See, that's another part of retail therapy, food therapy.
Oh, yeah. Retail therapy, right.
Yes, and we also, sometimes substances give you some relief for a while, but they actually create a bigger problem. So psychosomatic conditions are where the situation in the psyche, in the mind, your adrenaline, your cortisol, those hormones are not functioning properly, not being released properly. The dopamine, the serotonin, everything that keeps you balanced is no longer in balance.
It's like you said, they become chronically spiked, then it's going to lead to physical manifestation.
Definitely. And then what happens? We start treating the symptoms again. My knees are hurting, my joints are hurting. You look at people who, you tell me what's wrong, what's going on in you tell me where your back is hurting, and I'll tell you what's going on in your life.
Wow. Well, that's quite
Yes.
something.
This is just years of experience, and
I
I've been
can
proven right. But yes, people who are very stressed out find that they are more prone to joint problems and so on. So it affects fertility. And then there are people as it is getting married at later ages,
Right,
women,
right,
and
right.
then it affects fertility
Yeah,
as well.
incredible how it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Right.
It's all connected.
Mhm.
So I think if we look at our body and mind as one entity,
Which it is.
which it is, but we should not separate it in our minds, and say if my body is not feeling good, my mind doesn't function properly. If I'm very tired, drained, I make mistakes, make wrong judgments, I lend money to the wrong people,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll make a bad investment, I'll forget things. If my mind is affected, I drop things.
Right.
I go this way when I'm supposed to be going this way.
Just the small things, yeah.
All those are little things because
But they add up though.
Oh,
Yeah.
they all add.
Absolutely.
Major.
I mean, there's so many ways I can take this conversation, but I have
Yes.
last few questions for you then.
Yeah.
We talked about the stigma. That is unfortunately still there, but I have to say it has been improving over period of time. So, what are your thoughts on that, and how we can keep improving that?
I think one way we can keep improving it is by having sessions like this where we talk openly about what is
Yeah.
psychological counseling.
Because I genuinely don't
therapy.
feel there's any difference between the mind and the body. There's like we associate it with mental health and then physical health, but there's
The word
very
mental is what scares people because
Yeah.
the word mental health has got such negative
Yeah.
connotations. You want to call it emotional health and that makes you feel better, by all means call it that. But see, look at the people who get stigmatized by this, okay? Let's take somebody who's young. The families in our traditional society, basically, we are a traditional society. In our culture, when a young person complains of, I'm very stressed out, the families, acha, you know what, get married. You'll be happy.
Right.
You'll have someone.
Yeah.
If a couple is going through stressors, have a baby. The baby will make you happy. So we look at these instant measures. Or we look at go to some Baba or somebody or the other, get your horoscope read, these kind of things. And then we look at these kind of solutions
Yeah.
because we're very scared about actually addressing the fact that my own child might be having a mental health issue. Whether it's a young child or whether it's an adult.
right.
Why are you depressed? What's there to be depressed about? You have everything. Look at your house, look at this, look at that. My dad's got a car. What is lacking in your life? It doesn't have to be something lacking.
Yeah.
The mind, so there are, one thing I have to tell you is these hormones released by endocrine glands.
Okay. Yeah.
Now you've got your pancreas, you've got your thyroid.
Right.
In women, you have the ovaries. In men, you have the testes. Both of us have the the hypothalamus.
Thalamus, yeah.
So now, pituitary gland. If any of these are not secreting correctly, what happens? There is
Imbalance.
hyperthyroidism. There is diabetes. There
Right.
is polycystic ovaries, वगैरह. Now, if this is happening, you find that people so that's a purely physical thing, but it impacts the way a person feels inside. They tend to get more anxious, they tend to get stressed. So that's one of the questions we always ask. Is there a family history of diabetes? Have you been tested for? What's your B12 level? What's your D3 level? All these things indicate that there could be some physical things happening which are preventing your mind from coping well. So when I talked about the mind affecting the body, here's how the body affects the mind.
Right. Wow.
Right? Now, none of us think of all this. We think of having a baby to solve problems. How is an 8-pound baby going to solve that problem? And then, you have to look after the baby. So, the idea being that if stigma
Right.
were to be removed, actually looking after your mind will lead to a healthier life, a happier
100%.
life. You can't get married or have a baby when you're troubled.
Absolutely.
You're bringing someone into your life.
Which is
Either a
potentially more
partner-
troublesome.
either a partner or a baby who'll be, wet at one end or the other at any given point
Right.
in time. So we need to get rid of the stigma.
Absolutely.
And to get rid of the stigma, I think it's the onus is upon
conversations.
us to have more conversations. The onus is upon people to actually come and talk to us about what they can do. And when it's not like, you've come to me, so I'm going to grab you and say, okay, now counseling starts.
Yeah.
Come to me. If you feel comfortable with me, we can have more conversations.
Absolutely.
If you don't feel comfortable, nobody is going to force you. Then the onus is on me to make you feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
That's how it works. So hopefully the stigma will go. We also working with the LGBTQAI plus community. There was a lot of stigma there, marginalized.
Right. Right. And that also has become better. So I'm happy to
So many,
hear that.
trans people who now want to talk about how they feel.
Absolutely.
And you come to a person who doesn't carry unconscious bias, who won't judge you.
Yeah. Yeah, loose back to what you started by in this episode about that unbiased view.
Yes.
So
We
that,
need to do.
thank you for that answer. That's very important. I think that people need to hear.
Yeah.
So then, final question for you then, Nilufer, is that I mean you've got this vast years of experience of dealing with many people. What can we do on a daily basis for practically for us just to keep our emotional well-being in check?
Okay, so something that I love to do.
Yeah,
I
that's
get up
best.
at 5 in the morning, and at 5:30 I'm out, either running or walking.
Okay. Yeah, me too. I like that.
And
I mean,
I'm
that may not work for everyone.
I'm in my
but-
late 60s.
Okay.
So you can see the white hair.
You can see a little bit of white hair.
Yeah, yours are coming too. So then I have a trainer 3 times a week.
Okay.
Now, not everybody can have a trainer. Not everybody, somebody who's got young children cannot get up in the morning and run and go out.
Yeah.
Find time to exercise.
Okay. So you're saying
Anything.
exercise is really
Yeah. Do 6 Surya Namaskars, walk for half an hour.
Yeah.
Or do some, if you can, sure, if you can go to a gym or something, do it. Try to get some help initially, at least to exercise, so you don't injure your body.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah.
Because there can be really bad injuries. Eat sensibly. Follow a healthy diet and eat less of junk and less of white bread.
You think that really makes a big difference to your emotion well-being?
Huge
Yeah?
difference. Huge difference. Because
yeah.
there are sugar spikes and crashes.
Yeah.
Too much caffeine can do that.
Right.
Too much sugar can do that. And what's in white bread?
Yeah.
But right now we've got the pizzas and the burgers and everything and Maggi noodles and whatnot.
Yeah.
So everybody's out there eating fast food and ordering in food, which is once in a while it's fine to do. But what are you putting into your body?
Yeah.
Because that's where the gut is. And if your gut health is not good, don't expect the rest of your health to be good.
Again,
including
every
your
say
mind.
it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Right? Then when to let go? What are the things that you need to hold on to? If you find that you're holding on to things, talk to somebody. Get rid of that. Decide whether this is worth holding. Right?
And it's like you said, can I cope with this?
Can
What
I
you
cope?
talked about earlier.
And if I'm coping, am I really coping?
Right,
Well,
right.
if it's impacting my body, I'm not coping. So those are some things that you can do. I think all of us need to indulge in some hobby. And I'm using the word indulge.
Right.
Because these days people find themselves very time constrained.
Okay.
But anything, reading. We've forgotten the old arts, like
yeah,
helped
yeah.
us to cope. Music is like my big one.
Absolutely.
I can listen to anything from old Hindi film music to jazz
Yeah.
across the
absolutely.
board. So these are my go-to things.
Lovely.
And and spend time with good people. Remove toxic people from your life. Nurture your friendships. Nurture your
Laugh.
conversations.
Just try and laugh.
That will make you laugh.
Well, it's been fascinating talking to you, Nilufer. Thank you so much for all the insight that you've given us, talking about everything from the stigmas to what people should be looking out for themselves, even if they're seemingly thinking that they're okay, not okay. So I think today's been really helpful for a lot of people. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all, and we will see you for next week's episode. But before you leave, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button here at the bottom. Thank you.